to hear me now.
Hello and welcome everyone to episode 1 of the podcast Universi-Tea. I'm your host Haris and I'm joined by my co-host Aman. This is where we dive into everything about the post-secondary educational world, from industry trends to alumni success stories and beyond.
Hey everyone, we're super excited to get this podcast started. Our goal with Universi-Tea is to explore how education is evolving and to learn from industry-leading experts and alumni who have experienced this journey firsthand.
On today's episode, we have lined up a really special guest, Dr. Anne-Marie Vaughan, President and CEO of Humber Polytechnic. She is the 5th president of Humber and the first woman to hold this position in Humber's history.
With over 30 years of experience in post-secondary education, Dr. Vaughan began her term at Humber on August 29, 2022. She holds a Bachelor's of Art and a Bachelor of Education from Memorial University, certificates in Public Administration and Business from Memorial University, a Master of Arts in Higher Education from the University of British Columbia, and a Master in Project Management from York University. Dr. Vaughan also received her doctorate in Higher Education Leadership from the University of Calgary. It is an extreme honor to be able to sit down and have a chat with you today.
President Vaughan, how has your experience at Humber to date impacted or changed you?
Well, Humber is just such an exceptional institution, and I often get asked, what was your biggest learning coming here? And there were a couple of things. First is how we approach belonging and equity, diversity, and belonging. And when I first started I started to be exposed to how Humber approaches land acknowledgements, for example, which includes a reflection as well as the reading of the acknowledgement. It's a learning moment, and it really is an impactful moment for a post-secondary institution. And on our journey to truth and reconciliation, I think we're doing some really wonderful things in how we approach truth, reconciliation, through our understanding of the land and how we reflect on our land acknowledgements. That was just one sort of reflection for me. The other is the depth and breadth of talent at Humber. I would say to you that Humber is Canada's most comprehensive Polytechnic college, whatever non-university description you want to put on Humber, in Canada. And with over 240 programs in such a wide array of areas, I think it really provides tremendous opportunities for students, even within the institution itself. And so I think it's the breadth and depth of talent. It's the whole focus on how we approach belonging and inclusion, which I think is such leadership, how we approach sustainability and our desire to be the first post-secondary institution in Canada to reach net zero by 2029. Humber is a national and international leader in so many ways, and it's just such a remarkable place to be.
Most recently, you announced that Humber College would now be known as a Humber Polytechnic. Why make this change now?
Well, there's two big reasons for that. One is representative of the current state of what's happening in the world around us. And there's no doubt that the pandemic didn't only bring change because of a severe health threat to society. If we look at what's happened coming out of the pandemic, the social structures that are really being challenged, the industries that are being challenged, new industries that are being formed, other industries that are in decline, the advancement of AI, everything around us in the environment that we're in is changing. And so does higher education. We can't be static in this environment. And it's more than just moving to be offering programs remote. It's much deeper than that. The second part of why Humber Polytechnic is that really we've been this since 1967. We've been playing in this game in this row, in this lane for that length of time. And it's time for us to be able to start to drive a new era for that. One of the things that when we did the consultations on Humber Inspired, we had over 1,000 people contribute 3,000 ideas. But what really came through was how we are differentiated. And I think us being named a polytechnic is something that we know is true to our DNA. We just haven't embraced it. And we've got the agreement from the government of Ontario to be able to use that name. and it just seemed to be the right time to do it. If you see the breadth of our credentialing, we offer 31 degrees. We have more students in degree programs than the entire Ontario college system combined. We're offering a new graduate degree, so we're starting to get into postgraduate, not only certificates, but degrees. So that kind of latitude and the ability to grow and advance really makes sense for us to be a polytechnic. It's a lane. I want to be clear to anyone listening. There's not a desire here to be a university, but we're also not a regional college. We kind of play in a different lane where we have the attributes of both, right? We have some of the attributes of credentialing that universities have, but everything we do is applied. Right?
Yeah.
We have the DNA and the history of how colleges were created that allows us to be grounded and present within our communities. Yeah. There's a lane that we drive in the middle, that I think is a really important lane to be in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. President Vaughan, with this new change, how will Humber Polytechnic education and experience differ compared to traditional college or university education?
Well, it's a distinctively different difference, right? But different difference. It's distinctively something very different because you choose Humber, you're not making a decision of Humber or a university or Humber or a college. You're choosing Humber for a very deliberate reason. And it's about the employability. It's about the interconnections of our Humber learning outcomes within what we do. It's the whole Humber experience that produces graduates with the highest graduate employment rate in the GTA 6 months out of graduation, the highest employer satisfaction rate. There's something really unique about Humber, and the movement into Polytechnic and the naming of that is not going to change who we are. It's just going to allow us to expand from where we've been.
It sounds exciting, especially since many jobs that will exist in the future haven't been created yet. How will Humber's Polytechnic focus help prepare us for roles that don't even exist today? What skills will we be developing that might make us stand out to future employers?
Well, we're looking at a whole new set of programs really around the STEM and healthcare sectors. That is obviously the areas in big demand. So we'll be looking at healthcare and advanced manufacturing and STEAM and STEM related programming, as well as healthcare. And there's no doubt that we have huge demand for healthcare people in the community. But that doesn't mean we'll abandon business either, but we need to be looking at the technological implications in everything that we do. How is AI going to transform what we're doing and embrace and develop a whole new suite of either standalone credentials, but also we see AI in everything we do. So we need to be sure that we're weaving that into every single one of our programs and the implication and use of AI, as that's going to become a far more predominant tool that's used by employers and in business and industry. Yeah. The other area I would expand is we're really going to be leaning into things that students do outside the curriculum to provide them credit for that within the curriculum. So athletics, Enactus, Ignite, all these types of things that students do and are engaged in on campus should be recognized within the curriculum. And that's going to be a key question for us to figure out how we're going to do that. But I think it's a really critical thing for us to do.
As we're talking about employers and job, President Vaughan, when it comes to job hunting, will Humber credential carry different weight with employers now that we are officially designated as Polytechnic? How will this benefit students?
Well, I think Humber is always Humber. Like when we look at employer satisfaction rates, Humber, is a differentiator with employers regardless. I do think Polytechnic is going to allow us to provide more options for students, and by so doing, then it will give students an even more enhanced story to tell to an employer. So it might not be as obvious or direct, but what I do know is when we have such a high employer satisfaction rate with our graduates, we want to keep pushing that boundary because we want our graduates to continue to push and be at the top of their game. One of the big shifts we want to move to is it's not just about being educated for a job. It's about being educated for employability for life. So how do we weave in things within the curriculum that allow students to be agile and adaptable and be able to not just get that job when they graduate, but know that they have a pathway of employability for life. They have a mindset. They have the skills and abilities that are even beyond what the core discipline knowledge is to allow them to be successful throughout their life.
Lastly, as part of this evolution, will students have access to any new technology or facilities? Are there any updates that you can share?
Well, we'll certainly be looking at new opportunities and facilities. One of the themes of Humber Inspired is impact. And so one of the things that we heard when we talked to people within and outside the institution is two things. One is our convening power of Humber, but the other is how do we drive the things we're doing for wider impact? So net zero is actually a good example. So we have a net zero classroom. It's designed to inspire students to offer hands-on learning opportunities in real time for energy production and consumption. We're doing some really interesting things with Siemens, and we've just earned a national award in recognition for Canada's Clean 50 Top Project Award for this classroom. So if you think about, it's not just being the most sustainable and reaching net zero by 2029, it's taking that platform and ensuring that we give students the access to technology and opportunity so they're ahead. So Humber's ahead of other institutions. We want our students to be ahead. So an example of that is the smart grid technology that we're working with Siemens, and that allows students to be using that technology as we think about using smart grids as a resource or a source of energy for communities around the country and around the world. That's taking a platform piece that we have and really translating it into program opportunities for students and using that equipment in partnership with industry to give students really real life examples.
Thank you so much, President Vaughan, for taking the time to share your insight and your experience with us today. It's been great hearing about your journey and your thoughts on Humber Polytechnic future.
Yes, thank you again. We're really excited to see how this shift to a Polytechnic unfolds.
Great job to everyone. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you to all our listeners. Thank you for joining for episode 1 of Universi-Tea. We got some exciting new episodes lined up for you guys, so stay tuned as we continue to explore the world of education and beyond.
We also want to give a special shout out to President Vaughan for being here with us today. Tyler Charlebois, Director, Center of Innovation Network and Partnership Development, to help organize this. Professor Hanadi Al-Nawab for her continuous support. Yuvan from Idea Lab North Campus. Madhuvanta Ratnayaka, Idea Lab Lakeshore. Humber Lakeshore Athletics, and Longo Center for Entrepreneurship. Without them, this wouldn't have been possible.
Shout out to Humber Survival Guide. This is the go-to podcast for any students looking to crush their college experience. Each episode dives into real stories from Humber alumni who have been through it all and come out stronger. Whether it's tackling academics, managing stress, or making the most out of campus life, Humber's Survival Guide has the insight and actionable tips you need to succeed. Add it to your playlist and turn those college challenges into opportunities for growth.